There is a rather remarkable situation developing at Bayern Munich, which immediately demands my full and undivided attention. That's because Bayern Munich finds itself somehow in a perilous position in the Champions League round of 16, even though it has a 5-goal lead. Remember the first leg? Bayern Munich against Atalanta. Bayern Munich actually goes out to a 6-0 lead before Atalanta claws one back. Turns out that one goal might be super important because there's a crisis at Bayern Munich. And it's not necessarily of their own making, but it is a crisis that has now found them. And they're going to have to decide what to do. And I don't know if there's really a correct answer, but I am going to highlight something before we dive into it, because there are some positions on the field where you might be able to hide a player. Let's say, in this instance, a very young player. Right, somebody that has no experience. Maybe somebody even that has the skills of a layman. Right, you could be able to hide those players if they were defensive midfield. If you set up your tactic in a certain way, you'd be able to play 10 against 11. Right, on the wings, maybe it's a little harder, particularly if you get in those one-on-one matchups, but somewhere in the middle of the park, maybe even at striker, if you just have them, hey, drop in and we're just going to have the wings kind of attack for you. You just run around and try and find somewhere important to be. Right, you could get by with, let's say, a 16-year-old there for 90 minutes. You could. You'd get by with somebody there for 90 minutes and life would be good. You'd probably be, especially if you had a 5-goal lead. But there are a few positions in the world of sports where it is more obvious when somebody is out of place than goalkeeper on a pitch. That was proved pretty conclusively by Tottenham and Chelsea in a much less extreme way over the course of the first round of the Champions League. That if somebody's not up to pops, and we're talking about, like, in Tottenham's case in particularly, Kinski, the guy they had in there who ended up getting pulled after 16 minutes, this is a guy that started for 2 seasons in the top professional league of the Czech Republic, was purchased for over $10 million. Somebody whose pedigree is pretty solid. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, Champions League night at Atletico Madrid was a bit beyond the pale for him, at least right now. He's still like 21, 22 years old. But, he played at a high professional level for a couple of years. He'd been in world-class training for a couple of years around, a Premier League level club, at least for the time being. But jokes aside, really, like, it's obvious if a goalkeeper's not up to the pops. And it's very, very easy for goals to just spawn in out of nowhere if a goalkeeper is not up to the task. Right? Like, if a goalkeeper is not at the level they need to be, those goals can come quickly. But the situation that Bayern finds itself in is a perilous one involving the goalkeeper position. So, walk with me. There's a couple articles about this. I'm going to go with the Athletic one written by Sebastian Stafford Bloor. Shout out to that dude. Love a hyphenated last name with alliteration from the first two. It's brilliant. And that is the tale of how all of this has happened. So, Manuel Neuer, who's 39, just, if you wanted to date yourself, has suffered a latest in a long line of succession of muscle injuries at the beginning of March and has not played since. Jonas Erbig, who was brought in last year, is basically the heir apparent to Manuel Neuer. He's the number 2 guy because Neuer, again, is 39 fucking years old and hurt a lot. So Jonas Erbig comes in, and he is the guy that is, featuring to play. Well, against Atalanta, in case you were not paying attention, Jonas Erbig picks up a concussion. Fickle thing. I've had a few myself. Well, one confirmed and definitely at least one more. Right? A little brain bruise. You never quite know what's going to happen there, right? But Jonas Erbig goes down. So now we're missing the top 2 goalkeepers. Fortunately, as a club of Bayern size does, they have 3 full first-team goalkeepers. Sven Ulreich, the 37-year-old, who is the long-time backup of Neuer, if that name rings a bell, before Jonas Erbig showed up. But he's now old. He's 37, right? Or old in footballing terms. And Ulreich then is, he's going to have to play, right? Not a big problem. This guy's been on Bayern Munich for like 11 years. He's played plenty of matches. Neuer's not necessarily been a paragon of availability. And so Sven Ulreich has plenty of experience. He might not be able to make a ton of world-class saves, but he's going to be a steady hand. He's not going to be going through anything that he hasn't gone through before. The problem is this past weekend, Sven Ulreich got hurt. So now we're kind of in a question of what the fuck happens next. Now, he did play through the rest of the match, so we didn't necessarily get to find out what Bayern Munich wanted to do. But after the match, he ended up being diagnosed with like a torn shoulder, basically. And he's out, projected at least 6 weeks, right? He just wasn't necessarily match fit. He played pretty well, apparently. I didn't actually watch the match, but just according to reports, he played pretty well. He just wasn't match fit and ends up, tearing his shoulder up a little bit, trying to make all these saves. And so now you have Neuer out with a muscle issue, right? Not going to be back anytime soon. Sven Ulreich not going to be back anytime soon either. Jonas Erbig's out with a concussion, which means you have to clear like official concussion protocol in order to be able to come back. He's hanging around training, which I think is kind of silly to begin with because head injuries become like they multiply by factors if they happen before your brain's completely healed again. So speaking as somebody that's had to go through a serious concussion that required like MRI in a month and sunglasses sort of vibe, you really need to make sure that you're clearing all concussion protocol and that everything's okay. And honestly, probably give it a week after that. That's not necessarily how professional sports works. So Erbig's already kind of around training, but he has to clear all these fully independent protocols of concussion stuff in order to be able to play. And that game against Atlanta is closing in fast. So naturally, you would go to the reserve team. Now, for some reason, I think maybe it's a German rule. I don't know. I actually just can't remember. I thought, at least in the past, German clubs that have a B team could get up to the 3rd division. Bayern's is in the 4th, and it's kind of like a half amateur outfit. It's got like amateur veterans as well as like kind of reserve contract level players as just part of the youth process. But the reserve team for this side is not necessarily it's not necessarily part of like the escalated part of the youth system like you would see at Barcelona or Real Madrid, where quite frequently those reserve teams would be used as like that's where the guys that might be on the first team in a minute are going to be there. The starting goalkeeper, anyways, for this 4th division German like quasi semi-pro outfit, turns out he's also hurt, which he's technically the 4th highest goalkeeper at the club overall. He's not available either. Bayern have a second team from U19 players and amateur veterans that competes in the 4th tier of German football. But first choice goalkeeper Leon Klanach is remarkably also injured. He has a hamstring problem and will not be fit in time for Wednesday. So you now have the 3 first-team goalkeepers, the starting goalkeeper on a kind of not really cared about reserve team, which leaves Jonas Bartel, the 19-year-old backup goalkeeper for a 4th division kind of not cared about B team in the Bayern Munich system. Now, of course, there is another option, an option that is being more discussed because it doesn't seem like Bayern's going to go to Jonas Bartel because they don't really care about their B team that much, and they certainly don't care about the backup. Where they might go is to somebody that actually got called up to the bench before. This guy. This guy's Leonard Prescott. He's 16. And even though Bayern isn't necessarily super plugged in with their reserve team for one reason or another, they do have a great academy. Obviously, a club like Bayern's going to have a big academy and a great U19 club. Leonard Prescott plays for that club. This kid was born in New York, grew up in Germany, right? His dad's American, his mom is German. He plays for the German U17 youth national team. He has never played senior football anywhere. And apparently, according to, people reporting on this now, he's very highly regarded. Like, they do believe that he's going to make it in professional football, that he has that future. Not necessarily that he's going to become, the goalkeeper for Bayern Munich. This isn't a Donnarumma situation where this kid is, seen as the second coming here. But he is considered as somebody with a bright professional future and one of the higher touted players in this youth academy. And that seems to be why he's been brought into the fold. And I mean, he was on the bench when Ulreich got hurt in this game, right? And obviously, just the way the game played out, he didn't end up, Ulreich able to kind of, like, the game ends before you need Leonard Prescott to go out onto the field. So the race is on. Will Erbig be fit in time for the Atalanta match this week? Or will they have to go to Leonard Prescott, who is all of 16 years old? He's 16. He is a youth player, 16-year-old. They are out of professional goalkeepers at this club. He's on a youth contract, right? They do not have any more professionally contracted goalkeepers available at the club, Bayern Munich. They are going straight into the youth team to potentially pull out a 16-year-old for a Champions League round of 16 match. Because obviously, it might be a couple of matches, depending on how quickly Erbig's able to clear protocol. But this would be the first match that he'd be forced to play. There's no question. He has to play. There's no other goalkeeper there unless they want to go with a guy who's not even like a full-time professional, Giannis Bartel. I guess neither of these guys are full-time professionals to begin with because Leonard Prescott is legally a child. So much so, in fact, that he's actually going to have to tangle with German laws in order to be able to play this match if it is Leonard Prescott that's called upon. He'll have to navigate red tape like the Youth Employment Protection Act, which prevents under 18s from working after 8 p.m. Athletes enjoy an exemption out to 11 p.m. The game is scheduled to kick off at 9. He would need further dispensation to take part in extra time and penalties were they to take place. So they're going to have to play some legal jujitsu just in case. Or let's say, there's a lot of added time or something and it gets to 11 p.m. Legally, he's not allowed to be on the field because he is under the age of 18. I would imagine Bayern Munich, with its influence and gravitas, is going to be able to talk to somebody and get a written permission slip from the parent for a one-off or something to allow Leonard Prescott to be able to play, later if that's the guy they want to go with, or they're just going to have to play Leonard Prescott if they think he's the guy and bring their backup 4th Division B team goalkeeper and put him on the bench. Because that's the other question nobody seems to be able to, I haven't even heard this discussed. We've already had an injury rash here, the top 4 goalkeepers at Bayern Munich. You put Leonard Prescott out there, who the fuck is the backup? Who's the guy on the bench? I guess you bring in the kind of amateur backup of your 4th Division B team who would just be there. I mean, at this point, we're getting to emergency goalkeeper situation. This is the goalkeeper for Bayern Munich's U19 UEFA Youth League team. This is the guy. That's the team that this guy's playing on. He's playing in the Youth League. But I don't know if he's been the starter every game. Maybe they got a couple other guys down there. I'm assuming in their youth academy, they have a few guys who wear oven mitts for a living. But, this is such a massive jump up that even if Leonard Prescott is a really promising player, even if he's headed towards a really solid professional career, which he very well might be, there's really nearly no comparison. For the experience, the intensity, the speed. All right, let me give you an example. I'm a goalkeeper, right? I play men's league in New York, and there are different levels of men's league, right? There's level 1, level 2, level 3, whatever. It depends on what kind of league you're playing, and it's not a promotion relegation thing. It's just the level that you want to play at, basically. And the first time, because I was playing co-ed, just me and my friends in the lowest level. One of my friends was like, hey, you want to come goalkeep for this team in the highest level? And I spent the first 20 minutes going, holy shit. The difference, you might not feel like the difference is as evident for a goalkeeper as it is for somebody that's a wing or a central midfielder in terms of the pace of the game and the acumen of the players and just what to expect and where to expect it from. Right, but it is very evident immediately. And not to mention, everybody knows this story. If that is Leonard Prescott in goal, every single player on Atalanta is very aware that there's going to be a 16-year-old out there that's going to change the way they are playing because they're going to want to test him more so than they're going to want to waste time testing Ulrich or Erbig or Neuer or the starting goalkeeper of their B team. They're going to want to test him even more. So he's going to be under even more pressure than an average goalkeeper outing in an environment that legally in Germany you're almost not even supposed to be in an environment that just crushed the Czech Republic's top youth national team goalkeeper, turned him into powder. An environment that has crushed many a decent goalkeeper over the years. Champions League knockouts in front of 90,000 people. Right? Fortunately for Bayern Munich, this game is at home. So, I mean, that helps, right? The crowd and the team will also be aware of what's going on if it is Prescott out there and really be picking him up, right? They're not going to be watching him, if he makes a mistake and go, oh, they're going to be like, come on, man, you got it. Like, we believe in you. And that is going to add a different level to this. But behind the eyes of, like, you got this is going to be the nerves of, like, is this kid just going to fold like a lawn chair? And if he does, I don't blame him. This isn't where he's supposed to be in this portion of the development. There's a path you follow to prepare your body and mind to be able to withstand this kind of situation. And he's like on step 2 out of 8 on that path to becoming a big-time Champions League knockout professional goalkeeper for a team like Bayern Munich. Years of seasoning and experience to make everything there feel familiar and you're comfortable and you can execute your best in that situation. And holy shit, I don't know what happens. This is like the first time somebody threw Mentos and Coke. Nobody knew what was going to happen. He might rise to the occasion and have a great game and it launches an amazing professional career because that amount of confidence just blossoms his development. Or he might give up 8 goals. He might give up 4 and they swap goalkeepers and it turns into a complete, and that's acceptable because this guy is a 16-year-old who is not fast-tracked to the first team. He's being forced into this. Then, like, the ability of Atalanta, even though it is clearly below Bayern Munich, is like light years away from anything this kid will have ever experienced. The shot power, the moves, the technique, the intensity, the speed of the press. It's going to be wild. If Urbig is not ready, which it is, you can tell Bayern Munich's like trying to force Urbig to come back. Even if he comes back, this Prescott kid's going to be on the bench. He was just on the bench for the last game. And if Urbig gets hit in the head again, this kid's in there anyways. So it is just something to keep an eye on, that's for sure.